someone is looking at a poster of the game Night Defense, the Hell Dream, which says that whoever defends the 100 waves will receive a reward of an incredible 1 billion won. Then he thinks that if he had all that money, he could escape. He then sees some news in some forums about the incorruptible Deputy Kim Uisu, chosen by the people. He also sees the news about the secret life of the deputy being revealed, and the son of Deputy Kim, the best in the school, becoming a hot topic, being a son worthy of his fame. The person just keeps watching all this on his phone until a girl hugs him and wants to know if he is okay. Then she comments that she has something to tell and asks if they should go out a little to talk. The students around, seeing Jihoon leaving with the girl, comment that they are a little jealous. His friend emphasizes that although both are model students, he wants to know how the daughter of a member of the association manages to get close to that boy. In another part of the school, the girl wants to know why Jihoon won't lend. He says that he had already lent her 300,000 won last week, but at the moment, she is asking for more, and that's why he cannot lend again. Then a guy hugs Jihoon and wants to know if he should report him for creating an illegal website. Jihoon replies that no, and stresses that he had already said he would not use the site for illegal things. The girl tries to make things difficult for the boy and makes it clear that then everyone will surrender. Jihoon starts to get scared and soon remembers the news about the incorruptible deputy. The girl again tries to persuade him, saying that only he is capable. After returning home, as soon as he goes to open the door, his body starts to tremble, and he soon thinks that he did something very bad. Then later, he is shocked to hear someone wanting to know why he is standing there. Then he turns and sees that it is his father, also wanting to know if he has something to say. His father emphasizes that the election is very close and knows that even if his son cannot help him, he should not do anything that could stain his honor. Hearing this leaves Jihoon even more perplexed. His father starts to get impatient and wants to know why he is not saying anything. Jihoon remains reluctant to speak, but out of nowhere gives a fake smile and makes it clear to his father that he should not worry because he will not disappoint him. Uisu comments that he has always wondered if there was anything left for his son to make him disappointed. Then he looks at him and makes it clear that he simply has to live doing what he says, because that is how his son's life is. After his father leaves, Jihoon goes to his computer and starts questioning what he should do and why the hell his father is treating him so badly. Then his kitten approaches and starts licking his hand. Jihoon gets scared, but soon realizes that it is his kitten and asks if he was worried. Ruru jumps on the boy's lap, and he keeps asking his kitten to behave. Then he picks up Ruru and lifts him up and says that at school and even in his own house there is no one on his side and that he is all he has. Then he sees the poster of the game Night Defense, the Hell Dream, which says that whoever defends the 100 waves will receive a reward of an incredible 1 billion won. And as soon as he starts playing the game to try to complete the 100 waves, he thinks that he finally passed wave 99 and that at the moment he only has to endure one more wave. However, he cannot complete the last wave and tries again, but also without success. He keeps doing this tirelessly, but always fails. Jihoon starts to get nervous thinking that he has already tried hundreds of times and that he did everything he could, and starts to consider that the game was made not to be completed. Then he sees a person streaming and also getting irritated for not being able to complete the last wave, and then sees the streamer asking everyone to abandon the game because it does not let people finish it. Jihoon has in mind that it has been a year since the game's release and that many people reached the penultimate wave, but no one managed to finish the last one. But he knows he cannot give up there, since the only way to escape his hellish life with Ruru is the game itself. He then reflects that his only hope is an item dropped by the boss of the penultimate wave, the Heart of Rizzledrake, and after successfully enhancing the item, he knows that there is no item with better attributes than it. However, he has in mind that even when he equips it, he cannot finish the last wave, so he questions how he will be able to complete the game. Until his kitten, while walking on the table, accidentally places its paw on the phone screen, which immediately catches the attention of the MC. And as soon as he sees that Ruru's little paw touched the option to dismantle the item, he is perplexed, not believing what just happened. The game system informs Jihoon that the heart of Rizeldrake item has been successfully dismantled. He starts screaming, unable to believe that the item he needed the most to finish the game is gone. The system also informs that he obtained 1,000 enhancement fragment points for dismantling the item. However, Jihoon has in mind that when this item is dismantled, the only way is to start the game again from zero. But he begins to panic even more, questioning whether even if he starts playing again from scratch, anything would change in the end. Until he sees the system also informing that he obtained the dragon's soul, so he immediately wants to know what that is, since he knows that usually when someone dismantles an item, they only receive improvement fragments. But looking at the dragon's soul, he has an idea and thinks that if what he is thinking is correct, something very good might happen. Without thinking twice, he clicks to use the dragon's soul. Then he hopes it is what he is thinking, the way to finally complete the last wave of the game. Thus, he clicks to start the game again. The next day, while in the classroom, he keeps playing, and as soon as he returns home, he immediately goes to his computer to play. And when he goes to school, on the way, he never lets go of his phone. He keeps repeating this routine for a long time until he reaches the penultimate wave of the game. And as soon as he gets the heart of Rizeldrake item again, he dismantles it immediately, gaining another 1,000 enhancement fragment points and the dragon's soul. Thus, he thinks that if he is not wrong, something will happen. With that, he clicks to proceed to the last wave of the game and the battle begins. He hopes to endure, and, while the battle continues, he thinks that this time he will complete it until he finally manages to finish the last wave. Then he starts screaming, celebrating his victory, until his father bursts through the door holding a golf club and asks what he achieved. The MC gets scared and places the phone on the table, but his father says that he received a call from those friends of his son, and that they dared to demand money using his son's trivial mistake as leverage. Jihoon tries to explain, saying that he did not know that what he did would be used against his father. Uisu makes it clear that he had already warned him not to do anything that would stain his honor, and as soon as he approaches Jihoon, he starts screaming desperately, apologizing to his father. Then, he makes it clear that he will ensure this never happens again, but his father does not care. And while he watches his father breaking his phone, he thinks that he is weak and that he cannot do anything against his own father. As soon as he finishes breaking everything, Uisu makes it clear to his son that he is a disgrace who has never done anything. Jihoon only wants to know where his cat Ruru is. His father emphasizes that his son no longer needs those things. Jihoon clenches his teeth furiously because his father does not say where his cat is. Uisu wants to know what expression that is he sees on his son's face. Jihoon, very furious, insists on wanting to know where Ruru is, but his father says not to worry because Ruru will soon be with his son's dead mother. The MC starts crying, unable to believe what he is hearing. Uisu places his hand on his son's face and comments that he only has to live doing what he says to do, and that if he does that, he will have wealth, honor, and everything he wants. Then he asks his son never to disappoint him again, because he fully believes in him. Jihoon keeps looking at his father's face and thinks that he cannot stand living the way he is anymore. And, as soon as he leaves his room, while he falls to his knees worried about Ruru, he hears the game congratulating him for being the first player to complete Night Defense. But as he cries a lot, he thinks that this no longer matters, since there is no reason to run away and keep moving forward, until, from the completely broken phone, he hears a voice saying that it invites him to its world, and out of nowhere, a lightning bolt strikes his house, and then this lightning goes to a medieval kingdom. Jihoon is taken inside a castle surrounded by soldiers, and the voice says, "It brought the one who will save everyone, the legendary knight." People get excited shouting that the savior has finally appeared to save them. Jihoon thinks that suddenly everything is strange, because his tears no longer fall, and he feels as if his emotions had been eradicated, until a bearded man coughs, drawing his attention, and then wants to know if the MC is the legendary knight who will save the kingdom. Jihoon looks ahead and thinks that the man he is seeing is precisely the king from inside the game. Thus, the bearded man says that he is the young king of the kingdom of Jordia, Balis Jordia III. Balis tells the MC that the kingdom is currently in crisis, and that monsters are invading from all sides, and the kingdom is fighting to drive them away. Until suddenly, someone appears shouting, warning the king that they are in great trouble. Ji-hoon thinks that the setting of the kingdom and the current situation, looking at the king closely, he knows it is exactly the same as the introduction of the game Knight Defense. Bayless says that the situation has become urgent, and that is why he is giving an order for the MC to end this conflict, where he will have to become the Knight Commander and protect the kingdom. With this, a system screen appears in front of Ji-hoon, asking him to choose a faction and whether he will accept the king's offer. As he stands up, the MC says that he does not know if it is a dream or not, but that he will say it only once, so he asks the king to listen carefully. Thus, he says that at the moment 1,000,000,000 won. Before finishing speaking, he remembers the memories of his cat Ruru and concludes that it was worth nothing. People around start talking to each other, and some want to know if the boy in front is not too weak for a legendary knight. Bayless says that he is not sure what 1,000,000,000 means, but that if the MC can become the kingdom's knight commander and protect humanity from monsters, whatever he desires will be granted, no matter what it is. Ji-hoon gets a little scared and asks if the king will really grant anything. Bayless makes it clear that there is nothing he needs to worry about, since he only has to do what he is ordering. But while hearing the king talk about wealth and honor, he starts to feel something strange and soon remembers his father's expression, in which he was saying the same words, and looking directly at Bayless, he sees his father in him. Thus, he shouts saying that he will not do it, which leaves the king very surprised, as well as all the people present there. Ji-hoon says that wherever he goes, because of the title of son of a congressman, one guy and another guy, everyone tried to use him, and that even there they are forcing him to become a slave of the legendary knight. People are left open-mouthed, unable to believe what they are hearing. The MC makes it clear that he does not need wealth or fame, so he tells everyone to go to hell and clicks to refuse the king's request in the system. The king's council is very astonished at the MC's decision. Ji-hoon has in mind that after a certain period of time, monsters attack the kingdom and the player fails to protect the kingdom from the monsters. That was the end, or so he thought. With that, the system informs the MC that he rejected the human faction and that he received the authority to choose a new faction. Thus, the system informs that the hidden route has been unlocked and the monster faction has been released, just needing to click the button to start. Ji-hoon, seeing such a system notice, says that a monster faction in a defense game can only mean one thing, that it is no longer about defense, but about invasion. Bayless makes it very clear to the MC that choices come with responsibilities, then starts shouting for everyone to hear that the boy in front is not a legendary knight, and that he is the enemy who humiliates the king and puts the country and people in danger. Then he orders the soldiers to finish the MC. Ji-hoon takes a deep breath and, while the soldiers come at him, he thinks that he endured until now, and close to being attacked, he becomes furious and thinks that he was only holding on, until an intense power emerges from within his body, throwing the soldiers back. The king is very scared seeing the great power emanating in front of him. With that, the system informs the MC that the faction selection has been completed, and that from this moment he will surpass human abilities, will also cause hostility in humans, and monsters will show interest in him, and he will be able to check the abilities of monsters, and his rage will affect others. Then the system informs that the final objective of the monster faction is to completely destroy the kingdom and the human faction. Ji-hoon has in mind that from that moment on, it is his turn to attack, and outside the wall, a wave of monsters is waiting for the signal to attack. Thus, the system also informs that the reward given to the player upon reaching the final objective is to take one of the items that exists there. Ji-hoon has in mind that if he gets an item that exists there in the game, he might return to the original world. So he starts to remember his mother saying that she wanted her son to become friends with her kitten, and then Ji-hoon concludes that he thinks he might return to that time. Still surrounded by the kingdom's soldiers, they want to know what that explosion was, since it was an incredibly dense energy. The king thinks that definitely the energy he saw had the form of a monster, but questions if they can call that a monster, since it was an energy he had never seen before. The MC thinks that the faction selection was not part of the original game, and that, Since the faction changed, he thinks that something will happen if he continues the game normally. Thus, the system informs about the main quest, Oath of the Monstrous faction, in which he is to break through the soldiers' defense and attack the humans, and the reward will be the random item box. Jihoon has in mind that the quest details will change, but that he is certainly progressing as in the game, and that, if that is the case, what should come out now is a random rank S Knight summon ticket. However, he is surprised to see that he ended up receiving an egg. Then he thinks that normally he started by receiving a rank S Knight, but since it is the monster faction, it will be a rank S monster egg, and the system immediately wants to know if he would like to hatch the egg. As soon as he accepts, an explosion happens, and from the middle of the dust, a dragon wing begins to appear. The soldiers are worried, as they know that something was summoned. Jihoon thinks that he knows the name of this monster, but questions if the system is really giving that from the beginning, since he knows that it is the strongest dragon that appears as the boss of Wave 99, the cold-blooded dragon Rizeldrak. As the creature begins to emerge from the dust, the MC thinks that if Rizeldrak is summoned in the center of the kingdom, the human faction will be destroyed in an instant. However, the dragon appears, but to everyone's surprise, it is only a hatchling. Jihoon is very surprised to see that it is Rizeldrak, but only at level 1. He puts his finger towards it, and the little dragon starts licking his finger, which immediately makes the MC remember his kitten, Ruru. Looking at the dragon, the system informs that he can use the Overlord's Eye. Jihoon is intrigued by this passive ability and sees in his system that it allows him to see the attributes of monsters and items. The soldiers comment that they do not need to be afraid, since the MC only summoned a small monster. Thus, they charge at the MC. Jihoon thinks that whether this is a dream or not, it does not matter. Then he turns with his Overlord's Eye activated, aims at his dragon, and thinks that the only thing he can trust now is him. And, as soon as he sees the level 1 Dragon Breath ability, he shouts asking Rizeldrak to attack. The soldiers prepare to strike and Jihoon is very scared, thinking that there will not be enough time. But the little dragon activates its Dragon Breath technique and fires straight at the soldiers, and a powerful attack comes out, destroying everything in its path. Being seen even outside the kingdom, the people in the village cannot believe the debris falling from the castle. Jihoon watches the destruction that the mere level 1 ability caused and is very impressed, just like the other people around him. It doesn't take long for people to start commenting that the MC summoned a demon. Jihoon smiles and thinks that apparently it was easier than he thought, and questions if simply conquering the castle will make them give him the item he needs, since he has in mind that in the game, Knight Defense there are countless items, and that among them, he is sure there is one with the ability he wants, and that he doesn't need to rush, since there is no reason to go back now, because at the moment, he is only focusing on completing the mission he received. Thus, he calls for the representative of the human faction and makes it clear that from that moment, he will bring destruction upon him, since he needs to receive his reward. Meanwhile, in another place in the kingdom of Jordia, a girl is scared, wanting to know what the hell just happened in the royal palace, until a guy is running at full speed thinking that they just need to wait a little longer because he is almost there. Jihoon calls for Rizeldrak and asks him to fire more Dragon Breath attacks like before. At this moment, the counselor shouts, warning the soldiers to protect His Majesty and to form 3 layers of barrier. The MC makes it clear that it doesn't matter how many layers of shields they form, because as they themselves saw, his summon's attack was capable of easily destroying the royal wall. And while Rizeldrak prepares his attack again, the MC points forward and says that the target will be the king. Meanwhile, the guy who was running through the palace shouts, warning His Majesty that he is almost there. The counselor shouts, ordering the soldiers to resist the attack at all costs. Jihoon becomes intrigued by something, and just as the dragon is about to fire, someone arrives shouting for His Majesty, managing to interrupt Rizeldrak's attack. The warrior is relieved to see that the king is safe, while the counselor wants to know why the creature's attack stopped. Jihoon looks worriedly at the little dragon and thinks that when knights use abilities, they consume a defined amount of mana. Then he thinks that this means monsters too, since he is seeing Rizeldrak's ability consuming a large amount of mana, and that if mana is exhausted, dark circles are generated. Thus, he asks Rizeldrak to fire a normal attack, but the attack is very weak and without any power. Jihoon then thinks that he knew everything was being too easy and that now he has no choice but to wait for the skill's cooldown. At that moment, the warrior who had arrived walks up to the MC and wants to know if it was him, the arrogant one who dared to take the life of his majesty. Jihoon just stares at him, but thinks that in the game, Knight Defense, the knights are divided into classifications, which are apprentice, low rank, mid rank, high rank, and elite. And seeing the man in front of him, he has in mind that among them, this man is one of the 12 called Elite Zodiac Knights, rank S, the Ares Knight. The counselor shouts saying that finally, the strongest knight of the kingdom has arrived, who in turn also shouts wanting to know if his majesty is well. The MC starts to get worried, thinking that this is really bad. Bayless comments that war is imminent and then asks Ares to quickly eliminate the enemy who invaded the palace. Without thinking twice, the knight begins to release a powerful power from his spear. Jihoon becomes even more worried and starts questioning what he can do, since out of nowhere, a rank S knight appeared. He also knows that among the 12 rank S knights, Ares has an ability that covers a huge area from the start. The knight, while preparing his powerful attack, makes it clear to the MC that he will be eliminated in an instant. Thus, he uses his Flame Wall ability, which quickly goes toward the MC, who becomes very worried seeing the attack coming his way. Thus, a huge explosion happens in the palace, which can be seen from outside. The people caught in the attack start screaming in pain as their bodies are burned. Jihoon managed to escape the reach of the attack by jumping to the side, since he has in mind that Ares' Flame Wall ability is in a straight line, and as he knew he was the target from the beginning, he only had to jump to the side with his dragon. But he thinks that clearly the knight doesn't care about what happens to the others. Ares comments that the MC dodges like a rat, but soon makes it clear that he will make a nice burning hole in his heart. Jihoon has in mind that the knight's ability is currently on cooldown for now, so he thinks that means there is at least a chance. Ares jumps up and shouts, telling the MC rat not to move again. Jihoon starts to think that there must be a way to get out of this, especially since he didn't come all this way just to end like this. At that moment, a system notice appears informing that there is an unclaimed reward, being a random item box, and asking if he would like to accept it. Jihoon is confused to see a reward from the main quest, but while the attack is coming at him, he shouts asking the system to give his reward quickly. And so, the system announces that he accepted and a chest is created right in front of Jihoon, unintentionally managing to block the knight's charge, who while being thrown back from the impact wants to know if by any chance it is some kind of summon. Jihoon is very surprised by this, trying to understand what the hell just happened, and even more surprised to see a sword coming out of the random treasure chest. Then Jihoon activates his Overlord Eye and sees the status of the S-Class Hellbringer sword, whose magical power is 999, but the enhancement of additional attributes is unavailable. It is a sword that brings destruction and chaos, and that one day will bring hell. Jihoon is intrigued, questioning how he was so lucky to get an S-Class item in the first random box. Then, he thinks he has no idea who summoned him there, but judging by the drop he received, he believes that with this level of power, they want him to annihilate the human faction. As soon as the sword stands before him, where it touches the ground, a hole opens right under it. The MC starts sweating cold, worried about what might happen next. But the weight of the sword is so high that the place where it was ends up completely breaking, and Jihoon is thrown out of the royal palace. Realizing he is falling, he starts screaming in worry and questions what kind of royal palace cannot withstand the weight of a weapon. As soon as he sees the ground approaching, he panics even more, but thinks he cannot end in such a way until something grabs his clothes and he realizes he has stopped. Seeing that he is no longer in free fall, he questions what happened, but soon realizes it was his little dragon Rizaldrak who saved him, feeling happy and immediately thanking him. The people below see the MC and comment among themselves that it looks like a person is flying. Jihoon thinks it was almost his end, and then questions what kind of ridiculous opening is starting in enemy territory. But he knows that thanks to this, he is sure of the difference in power between the kingdom and him, since he is still at the initial stage, and only Ares is around for now. However, he keeps in mind that the S-Class Knights will continue to increase from this moment on, and therefore he knows he needs to increase his strength. Thus, he makes it clear to Rizaldrak that his priority is to escape the kingdom. Meanwhile, Ares trembles nervously, commenting that letting escape the guy who insulted his majesty makes him question how he can still be called an elite knight after that. He gets even more furious and thinks he is such a pathetic fool that he cannot even return his majesty's grace until someone calls him. As soon as he hears that his majesty summons him, he is surprised and quickly goes to King Balis, kneels down and starts apologizing, asking to be given a proper punishment for letting the criminal escape. Balis tells him to stop crying and comments that the sun is setting, so he wants to know if the knight knows what that means. Ares replies that the monsters get stronger, so the king tells the knight that he is putting him in command of this war and that he is to go to the walls to protect the kingdom. Meanwhile, the MC is flying with his little dragon. A little intrigued, Jihoon thinks that the game Knight Defense offered a grand prize of 1 billion won, but in return, it became a forgotten game because of its ridiculously high difficulty, and that among them, the wave that was classified as the greatest failure in difficulty adjustment was the first wave of wild goblins, since unless the player started by drawing an S-ranked knight with area skills, it was almost impossible to block. However, he knows that at the moment the kingdom has Ares with fire attribute area skills, so he thinks that expecting the walls to be broken in the first wave would be unrealistic. Because if you think about it, if it had been an S-rank assassin-type knight who opened the door instead of Ares, he would have already been eliminated. At that moment, the MC realizes that his little dragon can no longer hold him up. While Rizeldrak struggles to resist, the MC asks him to hold on a little longer because soon they will be out of the kingdom. But as soon as he sees the direction they are heading, he starts screaming, worried, saying they are going to crash into the pillars. And as he gets even closer, it is too late. They end up crashing into it and fall hard to the ground. Jihoon complains of back pain, but thinks that seeing how well he is after crashing into the wall, it actually turned out well in the end. Then he stands up and, while questioning if his body is really that of a normal person, he sees a pair of boots at his side, and, as he puts them on, someone appears saying that they do not recognize the clothes of the MC and immediately wants to know who he is. Jihoon is instantly in shock, since he is seeing another S-ranked knight in front of him and questions why the hell this is happening so often. This is Lib, a sacred S-ranked knight, who immediately asks the MC to identify himself. Jihoon becomes serious and thinks that the reason he was able to stop wave number 100, which no one else managed to stop, is that Lib, being S-rank, was less efficient in wall defense than B-rank knights, so she was only used for dungeon farming or adventures. Being also the abandoned knight, Jihoon also has in mind that with the dragon's soul and her in the last wave, they were crucial for his victory. Lib points her sword at the MC and asks again for him to identify himself. Jihoon calls out to the knight, and she wants to know where he knows her from. He replies that he knows her well, and that he repeated hundreds of failures before he could accurately assess her value. She becomes confused and asks him to explain himself immediately. Jihoon thinks that she was definitely the key to his strategy, but now that the factions have changed, she is the obstacle he must eliminate first. Meanwhile, near the kingdom's walls, the goblins are furious. The archers shout warnings that the creatures will move. It doesn't take long before the goblin army charges at the humans. The archers fire their arrows, hitting several creatures. Then they start throwing stones at the goblins trying to climb the wall. However, the number of goblins is enormous, and one of the soldiers becomes worried and comments that at the pace they are going, he thinks they won't be able to hold out for long, so he wants to know where the commander is, until an archer appears saying that Lord Ares is on his way, which makes the soldier more relieved, and he immediately asks everyone to hold firm on the front lines because they need to resist until the commander arrives. Meanwhile, Lib insists on wanting to know who the MC is and where he came from. Then she stresses that they are currently at war, and that if he doesn't answer, she may have to make her own judgment. Jihoon thinks that he needs to eliminate her immediately to avoid his worst variable, but he knows that would be impossible, because in close combat, no S-rank knight could defeat her. Therefore, he concludes that for now, it is better to retreat. So he laughs and says that in fact, he is just a common citizen from District 1 and that he wanted to help in the war, but ended up getting lost. Suddenly, Rizeldrak comes out of the rubble screaming. Lib is startled, wanting to know if it is a monster. And as soon as she puts her sword to the neck of the MC, she also wants to know why there is a monster inside the kingdom walls. Jihoon starts sweating cold and questions why his little pet had to appear at such a time. Then, he starts observing her and thinks that he is being suspected of being an accomplice, and that when that happens, he knows there will be no turning back. So he begins to consider mounting Rizeldrak and flying up once more, because he knows Lib has no long-range attacks, and the chances of winning could be good. But he quickly changes his mind and thinks there is no way to win, because even before he can take off, she will surely stop him, until Lib comments that she understands the situation and that she ended up misunderstanding. Jihoon is confused and wants to know why she is chasing him. The Sacred Knight says that he is an innocent citizen who was being chased by the monster that attacked the palace, and that now he can relax because she will protect him. Saying this while looking at Rizeldrak, who only tilts his head to the side trying to understand the situation. Lib hesitates seeing the beautiful little creature in front of her, and as soon as the little dragon makes an even cuter face, she begins to tremble all over, unable to go forward. With this, Jihoon realizes her true personality, until from the top of the wall, a huge explosion occurs. And while the Sacred Knight is distracted, wanting to know what is happening, Jihoon signals his little dragon to get out of there quickly. Thus, Rizeldrak flies away with the MC. Lib turns wanting to know if the explosion was caused by the soldier's mistake, but ends up realizing that the MC disappeared, until one of the soldiers comes to her calling and tells her that the gate is being attacked. The soldiers nearby become worried, expecting the worst. The gate keeps receiving several attacks, and it doesn't take long before cracks start to appear on it. Then Lib shows up and asks everyone to drop their bows and prepare for close combat. The archers on top of the wall try at all costs to eliminate the monsters approaching the gate, but a huge ogre comes charging to attack and the gate is brutally struck. The guards start trembling even more as they hear a terrible noise. It doesn't take long for the huge ogre to manage to break part of the gate. Lib shouts, ordering everyone to get ready to attack. As soon as the huge ogre finally manages to break the gate, the other goblins begin to enter through it. However, Ares is approaching, saying that he, the commander, has not even arrived yet. This draws Lib's attention. Furious, he wants to know how the gate was broken. Without a second thought, he unleashes his flame wall ability, and the goblins begin to be scorched by the infernal flames. Ares tells them to dance until his mood improved. Meanwhile, from the top of a mountain, Jihoon is watching the battle and thinks that with Ares' arrival, the tide of battle has changed. Then he thinks that he is the only player who stopped the last wave, but this time it is the opposite. With that, the system warns that the final objective of the monster faction is to destroy the human faction. Jihoon begins to question whether he will really have to destroy them in 100 waves. Then, while petting his dragon, he thinks that if he could go back to that time, he knows it would not be impossible. At that moment, Rizeldrak notices that it is raining, and while playing with the raindrops, Jihoon thinks that the human faction just needs to wait until he returns there again. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the soldiers are celebrating that they managed to withstand the attack, while Lib is intrigued, wanting to know if it was really the last attack. Jihoon thinks that it started back in the kingdom, but that at the moment, he is in the forest between the monster faction. He keeps in mind that this path did not exist in Night Defense, since he restarted the game hundreds of times just to survive all 100 waves, and that thanks to that, he knows the kingdom's battle tactics like the palm of his hand. But he knows this is no longer the kingdom, and that from now on, he will start with nothing, until he remembers something important, calls for Rizeldrak, sees him flying towards something and is surprised, since he is seeing some ants carrying something. However, one of them drops what it was carrying on the ground when it sees a huge shadow and becomes very scared. Jihoon, observing his little dragon, thinks that the more he looks, the more he feels that his behavior resembles his cat. However, he questions what he will do at the moment until he sees a system screen in front of him. The system warns about the main mission, in which he needs to establish a monster faction, unite them, and form a faction. The reward will be a random ability. Jihoon wonders how he will do this and how he will recruit them personally, since he knows they are talking about early game monsters and that those little guys normally appear around there. But Looking around, he wants to know why there are no goblins, or even rabbits, until something approaches at high speed, and as soon as he realizes it, he is very surprised. The creature heads towards the MC and shouts, asking for him to be eliminated once and for all. Jihoon becomes worried, thinking that he will not be able to dodge the attack in time, but the person stops his attack out of nowhere. The MC slowly begins to open his eyes upon realizing that he was not attacked, and, seeing the creature's claws very close to his neck, wants to know why he was not hit. Then, he is very surprised and, seeing the creature in front of him, wants to know if it is a rabbit beast. The creature gets irritated at being called that and immediately yells, wanting to know which part of her looks like a cute rabbit to him, since she is closer to a fox. Jihoon comments that he never said she looked cute. She gets even more furious with rage and, pointing to her ears, keeps yelling that he did say it. The MC watches her closely until he gets an idea and wants to know if she could be an Arctic fox. However, she smells something on the MC and quickly starts sniffing him from side to side. She comments that she finds something strange because he seems human, but wants to know why he smells like a monster. Jihoon is very intrigued to learn that his scent is of a monster, but soon notices a system warning that 2 passive abilities have been permanently activated, the first being monster communication, and the second being the friendly monster, which instinctively attracts positive attention from monsters. Thus, Jihoon concludes that this is why he can understand them. The rabbit comments that he is talking to himself again, then points her finger at him and yells, wanting to know who the hell he is. Jihoon feels embarrassed and thinks that his friendly monster passive ability should attract positive attention from monsters, until he notices something passing right in front of his eyes. And it ends up hitting something. Out of the forest come 3 guys, and the short one with a crossbow in hand yells that he finally got her. Jihoon thinks that there are humans outside the kingdom and wonders if they could be from a bandit faction or something like that. The rabbit beast gets nervous and comments that she knew the MC was human. Jihoon looks back and realizes that the arrow that passed right in front of his eyes ended up hitting her. While she is lying on the ground, she comments that it was he who set up that trap. In great pain, she asks the MC why he is chasing them and what he wants from her race. Jihoon becomes worried and asks her to wait a moment because he thinks there has been a misunderstanding. One of the guys hands a rope to another and tells the rabbit to stop grumbling and then pulls her hard. As soon as he pulls again, she comes flying in his direction. Jihoon becomes worried. The big guy, without a second thought, lands a blow on her and is happy to have managed to capture her, but soon becomes concerned when he notices something. She managed to dodge his punch, making it only a graze. Then she quickly turns, and the big guy only sees her foot coming towards his face, and, without much he can do, he receives a powerful kick right in the face. The others become worried seeing their friend being attacked. Jihoon is also surprised and comments that she is quite small and yet defeated the big guy with just a single kick. The guy with the crossbow in hand starts cursing her and wants to know how she dares kick a human. Then, he starts stomping on her and ordering her to shut up. Jihoon just watches this and thinks that something seems strange. Seeing her being stomped by the human, he clenches his fist tightly and questions why this is happening, until one of the bandits comes to him and asks if he is okay. Then he says that this could have ended very badly because the area there is full of beastmen and therefore it is dangerous. Thus, he wants to know what the MC is doing there alone, until the rabbit woman starts saying something strange and the bald man wants to know if she hasn't finished talking yet. However, she keeps saying something in the beastmen's language and the bald man gets irritated, prepares his attack and yells, wanting to know what the hell she is saying. Jihoon, seeing this, doesn't like it at all and starts getting furious. However, the guy in front of him asks the bald man to stop and says that she will die if he keeps hitting. He becomes embarrassed and quickly apologizes, explaining that he lost control again. The guy next to the MC comments that his people can get a little intense sometimes. Jihoon breathes relieved, but the guy turns with a bizarre expression and asks why the MC was talking to that monster. Then, he stabs a knife into Jihoon's body, leaving him very confused. The guy points out that someone like the MC would have made everything much easier if only they had known. The knife falls to the ground and Jihoon, in great pain, wants to know what he is talking about. The beast woman is surprised to see the human being attacked as well. Ji-hoon begins to feel something burning inside his body, and, while still in great pain, the guy tells him to relax because he avoided the vital points, but emphasizes that he will be dead in 12 hours. The MC starts coughing blood. The guy takes a vial and says it is the antidote, and that if the MC wants to live, he must get them a translator. At that moment, the big guy grabs the beast woman's hair, and the guy with the ponytail wants to know where her tribe lives. She looks like she is about to cry, and Ji-hoon does not understand anything because he does not know where her tribe lives. Then the guy comments about the fox's den and explains that this is a rude name they use. Anyway, there is a village where beastmen live, and therefore, if the MC helps to find this place, he will survive. Ji-hoon is reluctant about it, and the beast woman says that if he does this, he will put everyone in the village in danger. So she opens her mouth, which surprises the MC. But before she could do anything, the big guy forces her mouth shut, making her bite her own hand. Ji-hoon wonders if she was trying to kill herself just to protect the village. The big guy comments that it is no wonder they are called wild beasts. However, the ponytail guy makes it clear that everyone they capture dies in a day. So the big guy punches the beast woman in the stomach and pulls her by the hair. The ponytail guy emphasizes that they simply do not value their own lives. Then he tells the two to stay behind and explains that there may be more of the same kind nearby. Ji-hoon thinks that foxes are intelligent animals, and that even if they do not understand the language, they can sense danger. The ponytail guy insists that the MC translate for them and guide them to the fox den, saying that if he does so, they will take what they need silently and leave. Ji-hoon keeps trying to understand why they are doing this. The ponytail guy also emphasizes that their boss lost something, but they found it, and that the MC and the beast woman can live. Ji-hoon notices the guy's gaze and remembers the same look from a girl at his school asking for money, swearing it would be the last time she would ask and that she would pay it all the following week. He also thinks that all this is just lies, but in the end, it does not matter, since he only needs to get what he wants. He also has in mind that as long as he is useful, they will not kill him, and that he still cannot die there. So the MC goes to the beast woman and asks her to guide them to the village, guaranteeing that no one will get hurt. She just stays silent. The big guy, upon seeing the MC talking to her, wants to know if the boy is really speaking the beastmen's language. She tells the MC that if he feels different from other humans, maybe they are being too careful with them. Then she says that there are more than 100 beastmen living in her village, and therefore wants to know if she can trust the MC's words. He is surprised by her attitude, but comments that he is not on the side of humanity. He also emphasizes that the people there are truly evil. He says this, and is soon surprised, since he sees Rizeldrak right behind the ponytail guy. And while the guy wants to know why the MC stopped translating, the little dragon prepares his powerful roar. Ji-hoon tries to stall the guy to buy time. Rizeldrak continues channeling his attack, and Ji-hoon, apprehensive and wondering if it will work, tries to say something. The ponytail guy realizes that something strange is happening, as the MC's behavior suddenly changed, until the short, bald man notices the little dragon preparing to attack his boss, and just as Rizeldrak is about to launch the attack, the bald man yells, asking his boss to dodge the blow coming from behind. Ji-hoon thinks it is too late for him to escape the dragon's breath. The bandit leader is frightened and starts screaming, begging for his life to be spared. However, Rizeldrak's breath does not come out as planned, and only a weak attack escapes his mouth. The place is taken by a tremendous silence, and Ji-hoon is left open-mouthed, unable to believe that once again his little dragon's attack did not work. Just like the other bandits, and even Rizeldrak himself, Ji-hoon comments that apparently the cooldown time was still not enough. The bandits look at where the attack landed, and the big guy comments that the grass melted, and that even though it was not a full-power attack, if it had hit his head, it could have been really serious. The bandit leader grabs a club and, furious, charges at the little dragon, shouting that he has not even gotten married yet. The MC cannot believe what he is seeing, since Rizeldrak was attacked, thrown far away, and instantly completely knocked out. The bandit leader turns nervously and asks the MC how that insignificant little dragon dares to try to make a hole in his precious head. The bald man comments to his boss that they have never seen such a monster, and wants to know what they will do, since he thinks they can get a good price if they take the creature to sell. However, Ji-hoon is shocked to hear the bandit leader reply to the bald man that he does not need that. Then he tells his two henchmen to keep an eye on the boy and the beast woman, as he will deal with the creature that tried to eliminate him on his own. As he approaches Riseldrak, the MC clenches his teeth furiously and questions why he can only survive by talking to monsters. He also thinks that until now, he has only thought about his own value, desperately trying to survive his pathetic life. Remembering what happened to his cat Ruru in real life, he concludes that he does not want to regret losing anyone else. At that moment, the bandit leader moves to attack the little dragon knocked out on the ground, which leaves the beast woman unable to believe the cruelty of the human. Ji-hoon tries to control himself, and soon a system message appears warning that his passive skill has been permanently activated, being that of the physical monster that transcends human strength. The bandit leader, about to hit the little dragon, does not see a punch coming towards his face, and, with no way to defend himself, is struck by the MC and hurled forcefully against a rock. The beast woman is surprised, as are the other bandits. The bandit leader's face swells from the tremendous punch he received. Ji-hoon takes a deep breath, and the bandits run to their boss, worried. Meanwhile, the beast woman observes the MC and thinks that he was dying because of a poisoned blade, so she questions how he is moving so easily. Then something catches her attention, and she sees the human picking up his little dragon in his arms. Ji-hoon tells Riseldrak that he saved him, but makes it clear that he did not need to do that. The little dragon just smiles, happy to see him well. The MC smiles and tells his pet that he reminds him of something, then recalls his kitten in real life, who was always with him at any time. Then he promises Riseldrak that he will always protect him and that he will do so no matter what happens. The bald man yells, asking the MC if he has any idea who his boss is, because if he finds out what happened, they will all be dead. Ji-hoon looks at the bald man with a sinister gaze, which leaves everyone worried about the intent they feel. But soon they run away, shouting and promising that there will be revenge. With that, Riseldrak gets excited and celebrates the victory. However, Ji-hoon ends up running out of strength and begins to faint. As soon as he falls to the ground, the beast woman becomes worried, as does the little dragon, who paces back and forth calling for the MC. Almost without strength, Ji-hoon wonders if this is how he will die, and, as he loses consciousness, seeing his little dragon worried, he also wonders what will happen. Then, he begins to remember when he was a child and was next to someone in the hospital, feeling fury for thinking that in the end that bastard did not show up. Thus, after a while, Ji-hoon begins to slowly open his eyes, and, while observing the place, wants to know where he is. Then he sees the beast woman carrying him on her back and telling him not to try to move yet. With that, they keep walking through a cave, and as soon as they come out, some people start shouting that Rhea has returned and that she even brought a human with her. Several ears perk up, commenting that the MC really seems to be a human, but while observing from the outside, some comment that something seems strange, and others say that for some reason they find him attractive. Then they bring up the subject of the poison, because they think it should already have been neutralized, so they want to know when the MC will wake up. Ji-hoon starts thinking that he is already awake, but with everyone looking at him like that, he cannot get up. Then Rhea arrives clapping her hands and calling everyone's attention, asking them to give the MC some space. She also emphasizes that the guest will not be able to rest comfortably if everyone is making noise. One of the people wants to know if the human really saved her, and Rhea replies that she will answer questions later. Ji-hoon recognizes the voice he is hearing from outside. Rhea goes to him and says that she knows he is awake. Then she comments that he will have to forgive them, but emphasizes that even though he looks like a human, it is the first time they see a human who does not smell like one. Ji-hoon comments that, with her speaking that way, his identity ends up becoming a little confusing. Then he realizes that, thinking about it, the effects of the poison seem to have dissipated. Rhea says that fortunately, they had an antidote in the village. Ji-hoon is intrigued and asks how so, but soon remembers when she had said that if he brought the bandits to the village, everything would be over. Then the MC wants to know why she brought him there. Rhea replies that she had already said, because he is a human, but he does not smell like one. Ji-hoon wants to know if that really is the only reason. She becomes thoughtful, but soon remembers when and how the MC cared about the little dragon. Jihoon then comments that being brought to the village and even receiving an antidote, he thinks that is the effect of a friendly monster. Rhea becomes furious and shouts, wanting to know what the hell he's talking about, because he is being irritating even after she saved him. At that moment, Rizeldrak begins to wake up, and as soon as he looks ahead, he is happy to see everyone well. Rhea, while trying to argue with the MC, makes it clear that he tried to save her, and that therefore she thinks they are even. Then Jihoon hears a noise and turns to see what it is, becoming surprised to see Rizeldrak rushing toward him. While the two show affection for each other, the beast woman just watches. Then she comments that, thinking about it, they still do not even know each other's names, and that, since fate brought them together, they should at least introduce themselves. As soon as she is about to say her name, someone calls out shouting and saying that the village chief is looking for her and that he had also said for Rhea to bring the human guest along. After leaving the house, Jihoon is quite impressed with the Beastmen's village. Rhea says that it is a village built by beast rabbits, but at the moment, the beast people who lost their own villages gathered there, and everyone has lived together since then. While walking through the village, some residents want to know how Rhea's leg is. She replies that it is fine, and thanks them for worrying. Then a big guy appears, calls out to Rhea, and says he heard that she went to the forest where the humans passed again. She confirms, but emphasizes that she will be more careful from now on. While Jihoon is impressed with the size of the beastmen, he just watches the human from afar. The MC then comments that apparently it seems that everyone in the village really cares about Rhea. A little disappointed, she replies that yes. Jihoon notices this and wants to know what happened, since he noticed that she seems distracted for some time. She replies that he had to ask that, then suddenly turns and shouts calling him, which leaves him a little surprised. Then she wants to know if his name is E. She waits for the MC's answer, who in turn replies that his name is Jihoon, and, a little embarrassed, emphasizes that he thinks this name is quite unusual there. She says that her name is Rhea Rindrian Perditi Ceciliad, which leaves the MC confused. She turns and explains that this is her name, and a rabbit asks if her leg is already better. Rhea crouches down and says that she treated it earlier and that now it is all fine, but wants to know where the tunnel she made connects. Jihoon, seeing this, thinks that Rhea seems to have suddenly cheered up, and therefore thinks that she just wanted to say her own name. Then he looks ahead and, observing around, thinks about the main mission in which he will have to unite the monsters and build a faction. Then Rhea calls him and comments that she had already said they need to see the village chief. Jihoon thinks that if she is going to keep calling him Ae, he wants to know why she asked his name after all. Then he runs after her, thinking about his main mission and questioning if he will really be able to do it. After arriving where the village chief is, he makes it clear that from that moment on, he leaves the village in the hands of the MC, which leaves both him and Rhea in disbelief. While the old man leaves saying that he is too old for this, Jihoon makes it clear that he knows nothing about the village, and Rhea agrees, but emphasizes that the old man cannot trust the MC because of a dream, since he just arrived there, and it makes no sense at all. The old man makes it clear that his decision is already made. Rhea runs after the village chief, asking him to reconsider because she will not accept this. Jihoon just stays still, thinking about the events, then remembers the conversation he had with the old man as soon as they arrived to see him, when he said that he often had peculiar dreams and that those dreams always became reality, and that in one of those dreams, the one who will save the village is only the human who is there. Jihoon then remembers the system warning notifying about the main mission, in which he has to build a faction of monsters and unite them. Then he questions if leading the village is related to the main mission, but most importantly, that what the old man said about saving the village means that something is going to happen. Thus, he remembers the ponytail guy he faced in the forest, saying that his boss lost something, and then he becomes worried. He calls for Rhea and asks if she was not followed when she brought him to the village. She says that Warren is a village hidden behind a rocky mountain, and that it has never been discovered by anyone until now, and that the reason for this is that behind the steep mountain there is a large ocean, and therefore she thinks that no one would dare cross the mountain nor feel the need to. However, She says that there is only one way to enter Warren without crossing the mountain, which is through the tunnels dug by the rabbits. But she emphasizes that even if someone found the tunnels, the interior has a complex structure similar to a labyrinth. So she thinks that finding the path that connects to the village of Warren is almost impossible. Then she says that she also did not notice anything strange when she left the tunnel. Jihoon replies that this is a relief, but thinks about the feeling of unease he is having. Meanwhile, inside the cave, there are several traces of blood that fell from Ria's leg while crossing the path, and someone ended up following the trail and arriving at the village of Warren. It does not take long for someone to start shouting that there is a human who infiltrated there. Jihoon and Ria turn around startled, but soon the bald man from before is captured, and the huge beast starts shouting something in his language. The bald man is frightened, wanting to know what the hell the big guy is saying. Jihoon and Ria approach, and the MC immediately wants to know if the bald man tracked him there, but the big guy makes it clear that he followed the trail of Ria's wounds, which leaves her perplexed, wanting to know if she is being pursued after all, since she was sure she remained vigilant on the way back. Then, she apologizes to everyone and makes it clear that it is her fault, but the bullman replies that it is not her fault and that she does not need to keep blaming herself, because carrying a human there with the injuries she had on her leg must have been difficult to keep secret. But he emphasizes that now that they have captured the intruder, they just need to erase the blood trail on the path, and there will be no more problems. The villagers tell Ria to be at peace because they know it is not her fault. However, Jihoon asks everyone to wait a moment and says that there were 3 bandits, so he wants to know where the other 2 are. At that moment, the bald man shouts, calling everyone there scum, and makes it clear that soon the whole place will be in flames. And with a bizarre smile, he emphasizes that they are part of a group of bandits that even the kingdom gave up on, in addition to having the one and only Screaming All as their chief, and that he will arrive there at any minute, leading more than 200 bandits. Jihoon is confused about this Screaming All. At that moment, outside the village of Warren, but near the tunnel entrance, the ponytail guy and another big guy are about to enter, until the ponytail guy, a little reluctant to say it, shouts, calling his boss, and says that his brother was caught and he wants him back. The boss takes a deep breath, but remains silent. The ponytail guy, with his face all busted, shouts, saying that he found the fox den they use to get in and out, and that he will lead the way. The boss smiles and says that it is fine, and that they will be heading to the den right now. His henchman is happy with his boss's decision. Meanwhile, the captured bald man is telling that he was not the only one who got there, and that all of this was part of his boss's plan. Then, he starts telling about some moments before, when they were running through the forest, and the guy on top of the big one was shouting, asking to stop. So he looked to the side and saw the beast girl approaching the fallen human and concluded that that was the moment for them to take advantage of a chance. After telling this, he starts laughing and shouting that they will all be dead soon. Ria begins to worry and wants to know what the human is talking about. Then she turns and calls for the MC, who in turn comments that he thinks it seems the bandits know where the location of Warren Village is, and that he fears they will arrive there at any moment. Ria becomes very frightened hearing this. Jihoon reflects on Screaming All and thinks that he had imagined that the name sounded familiar, but that he is starting to remember now, because in the game, Defense Knight, a person gains EXP fighting against waves of monsters that attack the kingdom, and the knights leveled up and became stronger. But he knows that just leveling up like that is not enough to survive the waves forever, and that is why the game had another system, being the Adventurers, in which a person chose knights to send on missions and clear stages, and that clearing stages yielded various items, besides having in mind that the stages start at Remnants of the Wild Goblins and extend up to the Demon King's Fortress, being a total of 100 stages. Jihoon thinks that he does not remember the name of all the stages, but that he vaguely remembers the final part, from stage 1 to 100, being a village hidden behind a rocky mountain. But if he thinks about it again, he knows that each stage had a story behind it, and that in the stage of the Screaming All hideout, the story is that they were a brutal gang led by the notorious bandit Screaming All. However, he has in mind that he does not know if he read all the backstories, but he knows that one thing is certain, which is that there was no stage called Warren, because according to the story of the game, the place there would be destroyed. The bald man gives a treacherous smile and shouts, saying that he wants to make an offer, and says that if they let him go, he will ask his boss to spare everyone. Jihoon has in mind that the beastmen may not understand what the bald man is saying, but he knows that his words are already spreading, invading everyone's hearts. The creatures begin to panic, commenting that it seems something is not right. Rhea becomes very worried, saying that her village will be attacked because of her. The bald man starts shouting, saying that he already told them to untie him. Jihoon thinks that at this rate, the beastmen will be slaughtered and the village of Warren will become the new base of the bandits, and therefore he knows he cannot let this happen. And while the bald man keeps shouting, wanting to know if everyone wants to be eliminated, Jihoon approaches him, thinking that Warren will become the center of his monster faction. Then he clenches his fist with great strength and lands a punch in the middle of the bald man's face, throwing him hard to the ground, who in turn screams in pain. The bull warrior and the other villagers cannot believe what they just saw, as well as Rhea herself. Jihoon tells the bald man to shut up because he is tired of hearing him spew venom. Then he becomes serious and calls everyone to fight, because they will protect Warren no matter what happens, which leaves Rhea very surprised with the human's attitude. After going to talk to the bullman, he comments that it is something impossible and asks the MC to look around, because they built the village hidden behind the Rocky Mountains, because they are all weak, and that most there are women and children, people who have never fought a real battle in their lives, much less would face a gang of armed bandits. Until the village chief appears laughing and Rhea greets him. He wants to know if she has always been wise, then says that now that they are all gathered, he will say it once again, and that from this day, Jihoon is the new chief of Warren. Meanwhile, several bandits are walking quickly, and the boss smiles and wants to know if that is the place they are looking for. The ponytail guy replies that yes, and then says that the village is hidden behind a rocky mountain. The boss comments that he liked to know that and emphasizes that from now on, they will take it and it will become the new base of the Screaming All gang. Thus, he orders everyone to leave immediately. The bull comments that the strength of the bandits is estimated at about 200 people, and that in comparison, the combat strength of Warren, including himself, will have 3 bull beastmen, 2 deer beastmen, 5 sheep beastmen, and 1 fox beastman, and lastly the rabbit beastman, totaling 101, and that the total overall is 112. Thus, he wants to know if they will have any chance. Jihoon keeps thinking about something and comments that they are against double the number they have, but thinks that he knows this is not just a normal battle, because in games what really matters are not the numbers, but the individual attributes, ranking, and level. He also knows that Rhea may have been ambushed, but she still knocked out a bandit with a single blow. However, he knows that 3 against 1 would be difficult, but that 2 against 1 he thinks she could have won. And Mr. Bull had said that the beastmen there had never truly fought before. Then he thinks again about this never fought, and considers that this may mean one thing, being the beast form, and that he thinks maybe they have underestimated them, because their power may not be as weak as they thought. Thus, he becomes excited and thinks that if everyone there is close to Rhea's level, he thinks they could overcome this whole numbers problem. Then he calls Mr. Bull, who in turn introduces himself and says that his name is Tor Brimlock. With that, the MC says that based on the standards of the village of Warren, he wants to know where Tor would classify Rhea in terms of strength. While Tor comments that if the human is asking how strong she is, Jihoon becomes excited thinking that this is a starting mission, because he is sure the system would not give something impossible right at the beginning. Thus, Mr. Tar says that Rhea is the strongest warrior of Warren, which leaves the MC a little surprised. Tar still emphasizes that even if everyone in Warren united against her, Rhea would still win easily. Hearing this leaves the MC devastated, thinking that basically, even if everyone fought with her, they would still lose. Then he becomes totally shocked, wanting to know if this means the rest are completely useless. Soon after, Rhea comments that she thinks around sunset, the humans will probably arrive at the cave entrance and that they will still have some time left. Jihoon is surprised and wants to know how she knows that. She points to the bald man tied to the tree with his face swollen from being beaten and says she asked him. Therefore, the MC emphasizes that, thinking about it, the bandits had said they were looking for something their master had lost. Then he wants to know if she might have any idea what it would be. Rhea comments that it might be some precious heritage passed down through the beast people for generations or mineral resources hidden in Warren. She then emphasizes that the village is just a small settlement where beast people who lost their homes gathered, and that there is no chance of having anything worth the humans coveting. Jihoon comments that he thinks they just needed an excuse, until Mr. Tar approaches and asks what they should do now, as everyone is waiting for the orders of the new village chief. Jihoon keeps thinking and concludes that to overcome the numerical disadvantage, the individual attributes must be high. He knows that the strongest in Warren is Rhea, and that the three beastmen could not defeat her even attacking together. But he questions if Rhea is really strong enough to defeat three people, since he has in mind that rabbits are weak or that Rhea is strong, and therefore cannot reach a sensible conclusion, because he knows that if he could see the exact rankings and attributes like in a game and compare, he would have an approximate idea. Until something comes to his mind and he starts to remember his Overlord Eye skill, which allows him to visualize the attributes of monsters and items. Then he questions how to activate it again, since he knows that normally when trying to check attributes, it is enough to call for the status window. Therefore, he shouts asking his system to show the status. However, nothing happens. And while he is astonished, he thinks that normally the system would have already appeared and that the inventory would also open when pronounced, until a screen begins to appear and, as soon as it opens completely, he questions whether it worked, since the inventory is completely empty. But he finds something strange, as the window is called Abyss Slot, and he questions if it could be an abbreviation of Abyss Slot, since, as it is the Monsters faction, he thinks that even the name of the inventory changes. Until thinking better, he finds that after escaping the royal palace, so many things happen non-stop that he ended up forgetting. Then, he remembers the sword he received in his first random chest, but ends up getting furious, because it was completely buried in the collapse and ended up in the middle of the kingdom. But he thinks that his dumb system should at least have stored it. He also knows that he cannot return to the kingdom to try to recover it at the moment, because, as regrettable as it is, nothing can be done in the scenario he is in. Jihoon remains puzzled about the statistics window not appearing, and questions if there is another method to make it appear. Then, he has in mind that there are 4 passive skills activated at the moment, being the Overlord Eye, which allows visualizing attributes of monsters and items, the Monster Communication skill, the Friendly Monster skill, which naturally attracts inexplicable favor from monsters, and the last one, the Physical Monster skill, which transcends human physical limits. Then he knows that except for the Overlord Eye, the other passive skills seem to remain active after the initial activation, until Rhea becomes impatient and starts yelling, wanting to know how long he is going to keep thinking, because he must do something quickly, as the enemies keep advancing. Then she lowers her head and asks the MC to give some order to the villagers, because she wants to protect Warren and her people. Jihoon is moved by her attitude and thinks that the immediate situation is urgent at the moment. Then he thinks there is no need to be obsessed with how to open the statistics window or check them at the moment. However, while thinking this, he ends up unintentionally activating his Overlord Eye. Therefore, the system notifies that it is locking the target on Rhea. Jihoon is intrigued by this target designation thing. Then he reflects that now that he thought about it, the inventory checks the items he has, being a system function, and that is why it opened just by thinking. But he thinks that the Overlord Eye is a skill that lets him visualize the stats of monsters and items, and that it is quite simple when he thinks of it that way. And that to activate the passive skill, he only needs to designate a target and visualize the verification of their attributes, hence the Overlord Eye. And as soon as he visualizes Rhea's status window, he discovers that she is rank B. Then he gets excited and thinks that rank B is equal to intermediate knights, being higher than he imagined. He also sees that she has a water-type attribute and that her attack is melee, with attributes concentrated in attack power, and her skill is indeed transformation. Until she calls him and comments that she knows suddenly becoming the village chief must be heavy, but wants to know if he is listening. He replies that yes, but while messing with the system, She continues saying that in any case, since he is the village chief now, she will do her best to support him. Ji-hoon starts questioning about the heart he is seeing in the status and starts clicking on it, and each time he does that, he does not notice that he is pressing Ria's nose, who in turn starts getting furious and yells that she is speaking sincerely and he is joking at a time like this. Then she wants to know if this is the kind of chief to whom they will entrust the fate of Warren. After realizing what he was doing, the MC is embarrassed and replies that it was not what he meant to do. However, it is too late, and Ria comes at him, furiously yelling that she cannot accept this. While Ria storms off angrily, Tar wants to know the chief's orders. Ji-hoon asks Mr. Tar to gather all the villagers there. Tor, seeing the MC's face completely scratched, wants to know if he is okay. Ji-hoon, a little embarrassed, replies that he is fine and that he should do as he said. After a while, all the villagers gather and the MC starts analyzing them one by one. And as soon as a sheep man approaches, he says that he is the last. Ji-hoon breathes relieved and thinks that checking stats of each person one by one really drains a lot of stamina. Then he reflects that the population of Warren is 114, including them, and that the highest ranking is undoubtedly Rizeldrax. Then he activates his Overlord Eye on his little dragon, but keeps in mind that for an S-rank monster, its base attack is surprisingly weak, since its points are all in magic attack and defense, and that the dragon's breath consumes all MP in a single use, and that even after an entire day only about half recovers, which means it is just one shot every 2 days. Then he concludes that for this battle, Rizeldrax's dragon breath cannot be used. He then thinks that the current forces they have in the village of Warren consist of Ria at rank B and Mr. Tor at rank C, and that the rest, the majority, are rank E. Therefore, he thinks about what Mr. Tor had said. If even all the villagers gathered, they could not defeat Ria. Then he thinks that now this makes a little sense, because compared to the kingdom's knights, he knows that rank D is equal to hunting knights, while rank E does not even exist as a rank. However, on the other hand, he also knows that they do not know the ranks of the bandits, and that, if he judges by what he remembers from the stage of the Screaming All Hideout phase, he knows that the stage difficulty is almost level C. With this, he stands up and thinks that now that he checked the classifications of everyone, he thinks the situation is clear, in which numbers, quality, and equipment are surpassed in all aspects, and that it even seems impossible to protect Warren the way they are. But he has in mind that this is no longer a game, since there it is reality itself, and that many things exist there that are not quantifiable in games, and that somehow he ended up creating some variables. Therefore, he calls for Tor and Ria and says he will tell them his plan. Meanwhile, the bandits are heading to the tunnel entrance that gives access to the village of Warren, going through the forest, but they are being observed by some villagers. Thus, one of the beastmen asks his friend to return immediately and inform everyone, as they will arrive at the entrance very soon. However, as soon as he finishes saying that, he is struck right in the head by an arrow, which leaves the girl scared by the scene she just witnessed. The bandit leader wants to know if the girl knew they would be there. She remains paralyzed seeing her friend's body lying on the ground, but she knows she has a very important mission. Then she transforms into a rabbit and dashes away. But the leader tells everyone not to do anything, which leaves the ponytail-haired guy incredulous, wanting to know why his leader let her escape. He replies that he did not let her go in vain, since he is sure she will end up spreading fear when she returns to the village. Meanwhile, the MC is passing instructions to the others, asking Team 2 to hurry and Team 1 as well, until the little rabbit arrives at the cave entrance and Ji-hoon notices her returning. She starts shouting warning that the humans are already very close. Tor and Ria want to know whose blood is on the little rabbit. Very desperate, she keeps running and screaming, warning that the bandits are coming, and as soon as she enters the cave, she informs them that they are right behind. Ji-hoon starts trembling and thinks that he knows he is the only player who survived the 100 waves in the game. Then, he clenches his fist tightly and thinks that this will be the first defense of the monster faction, and that therefore, he knows he cannot let them pass. It does not take long for the bandits to reach the cave entrance, and the leader soon wants to know if that is the fox's den. The big guy replies that yes, because they mapped the route. The leader orders everyone to enter quickly, as he knows prolonging this would be irritating and that they need to finish before sunset. Rhea and Jihoon are hiding watching the bandits enter. She turns and asks if the plan will work, and the MC comments that for this operation, the beginning is crucial. The bandits continue entering the cave, and the big guy informs that at the pace they are going, they will possibly reach the village in 30 minutes. The leader becomes suspicious and comments that everything is too quiet. The ponytail-haired guy then comments that the beasts are quite stupid and that he thinks they are probably hiding in the village trembling. He then says that the MC gave him a tremendous punch, and that is why he wants to deal with him personally. Until when stepping on a part of the ground, he notices something and comments that it seems there is a sound coming from the ground. He barely finishes saying this when the ground beneath everyone starts to crack, and quickly most begin to fall into the hole left by the rabbit men. The ponytail-haired guy is very frightened, since if it were not for his leader holding him by the arm, he would have fallen along with the others. Inside the trap, some bandits start screaming, saying they broke arms and legs. The ponytail-haired guy comments to his leader that apparently the beast set traps. The leader looks to the side, and while observing carefully, thinks that it is a trap made by digging holes in the ground, covering them with wooden planks, and then placing layers of earth and stones. Then he knows that when a certain weight is applied, the support pillars collapse, causing the victims to fall. The big guy says that when they were there the day before, there were no traps, and, looking ahead, emphasizes that if there are more of them, proceeding will be very dangerous. The ponytail-haired guy calls his master and tries to convince him that there might be more traps scattered throughout the cave and that it would be very reckless to continue. However, the leader yells, calling them idiots. He then picks up a huge rock and throws it forward, and as soon as it hits the ground, it ends up disarming another trap. Thus, he explains that it is an artificially dug cave in the mountain and that the original floor was solid rock. Then, he makes it clear that even if they had dug pits and covered them with wood and then placed layers of earth and stones over them, anyone could see the difference just by looking closely. The ponytail-haired guy comments that now that he heard his leader explaining it, he can clearly see it. The leader further emphasizes that the areas with more gravel are the traps, and that he thinks maybe carnivores might fall into them, but semi-human herbivores are weak, and the traps there prove their weakness. Then he orders to leave some men behind to recover the fallen, and for the rest to advance while avoiding the traps. Rhea is watching everything and comments that apparently they found the traps. Jihoon comments that it is exactly as they planned. She is confused and quickly wants to know if the bandits discovering them was part of the plan. The MC explains that by digging through the solid rocks, even with the increase in demi-human forces, he knew it would take a long time, and that perfectly concealing the holes was impossible in such a short time. So, he imagined that quick traps would not work more than once on anyone with the same brain, since there are only 2 deep pit traps and all the others are fake, serving only to buy time for the next phase. Then he makes it clear that by making them cautious of traps, their marching speed is reduced by more than half. That said, he calls Rhea to the next position. After some time inside the cave, the bandits seem a bit exhausted. The big guy informs his leader that at the fork ahead, they should take the path to the right and will reach the final destination. The leader is intrigued about this fork in the road, but ahead, there are 3 paths. The ponytail-haired guy is confused and, pointing to a herb ahead, comments that he had seen it before and was sure it was to the right. The leader comments that the villagers must think fragile traps and illusions will stop them. Then he says that he knows the caves were made to buy time. Therefore, he makes it clear to everyone that he thinks the villagers are preparing something in the village, and that therefore they cannot give them more time. Then he asks everyone to split into 3 groups and advance quickly. The ponytail-haired guy goes to the left, the big guy through the middle passage, and the leader's group to the right. It does not take long for the ponytail-haired guy's group to realize their passage is blocked, and the big guy's group notices a light at the end. Then, he picks up his huge hammer and orders his group to prepare for battle. Until in the leader's group, the bandits point forward and shout saying they think it is the exit. The leader laughs and comments that he would not have imagined he chose the right path. Thus, he orders everyone to eliminate the villagers without mercy. With that, The big guy's group and the leader's group head toward the light they are seeing, but soon the leader is surprised, wanting to know what the hell is happening, since he ended up returning to the beginning of the cave where they entered. Meanwhile, the big guy's group reports that they found the village and orders everyone to hold their position. Then he turns and asks one of the bandits to return to the fork and inform the leader and vice leader, until one of the bandits points forward and asks the big guy to look carefully under a tree. The bald bandit is tied up and with his mouth gagged. Quickly, the big guy's group goes to the tree, and as soon as they remove the gag from the short, bald man's mouth, they want to know if he is okay. Very frightened, the bald man wants to know where the leader and the vice leader are and why the group's numbers are greatly reduced. Meanwhile, the bandit that the big guy asked to go inform the leader is running at full speed through the cave until he notices a kick coming his way. However, he cannot defend and is hit hard, being thrown against the wall. His face is completely bruised. Jihoon comments that he still cannot reveal his secret because the numerical advantage he gained was achieved with great difficulty. Then he thinks it was by using fake traps to buy time, and that he knows these weak traps are perfect to make the enemy underestimate them. Meanwhile, the bald man is desperate after hearing from the big guy that the troops were divided into 3, since he knows it will not be enough, as they are completely surrounded, until the big guy looks to the side and sees several villagers scattered, being at the moment 113 against 60. After leaving the cave, Jihoon looks ahead and shouts, asking all units to attack immediately. Then he thinks that his true strategy will begin now. Thus, the big guy yells, ordering the bandits with him to attack everyone, and so the battle begins. Just before striking with his hammer, Jihoon shouts, asking all units to use transformation, and as soon as the big guy strikes his attack, a smoke explosion happens, and he is confused to realize they disappeared. The MC has in mind that when the beastmen transform, they produce smoke, so he remembers that when he noticed this, he thought he could use it during battle. This way, they could execute a smoke screen tactic, and now he knows the next target will be Mr. Tower, who soon appears among the bandits holding a huge rock, and as soon as he throws it, wherever the huge rock passes, it ends up hitting several bandits at once. Meanwhile, the villagers transformed into rabbits, jump onto the bandits, and some hidden underground emerge to grab their feet. And as soon as the bandits are trapped and cannot move, the other rabbits can land several kicks right in the bandits' faces. Even a deer man runs after a bandit with his antlers, until, while some bandits keep kicking a sheep, they end up confused because the attacks have no effect due to the thick layer of wool that blocks the kicks. Meanwhile, some begin to feel a strong burning in their heads, as it is Rizaldrak's weakened attack. Jihoon, from above the battlefield, thinks that with numerical superiority and surprise attacks using smoke, they took advantage, and that he can even imagine they might win if they keep up at this pace. Until he gets scared hearing something. Then he sees that the short bald man managed to break free and is asking some bandits to cover him because he will teach the damned rabbits a lesson. Thus, he starts shooting his arrows. Jihoon immediately asks Rhea to go help them, who in turn, without saying anything, jumps quickly. The MC is quite impressed, and watching Rhea move, thinks she is very fast. The bald man notices her coming his way, so he gets nervous and aiming his crossbow, makes it clear that he will take her down once and for all. And without hesitation, he fires an arrow that goes at high speed straight at Rhea, who in turn is well focused watching the arrow's trajectory, and at the last second manages to dodge it easily. And as soon as she pushes off the ground, she leaps at full force toward the short, bald man. But as soon as she strikes her kick, a bodyguard steps in front and blocks her blow. The bodyguard laughs and asks if the kick is all she has. Without saying anything at all, she crouches at high speed and lands a powerful kick right under the bodyguard's chin, almost like Rock Lee's kick on Gaara. Then she charges at another thug, who barely has time to react and is brutally hit right in the face. The short, bald man just watches his thugs being thrown away and soon wants to know what the hell they think they are doing, until he gets frightened looking ahead and seeing Rhea right in front of him. But as soon as he realizes it, he sees her landing a kick and, with nothing much to do, is hit squarely and thrown hard to the ground. The bald man's face is completely swollen from the powerful kick he took. Rhea stands watching him fallen and yells asking them not to underestimate the villagers of Warren. Meanwhile, the big guy is watching his friends brutally lose the battle, so he clenches his fist tightly and activates his skill, which makes his body start gaining muscle mass. Jihoon notices this and, somewhat worried, thinks that he does not know much about the monsters, but keeps in mind that in the game, Defense Knight only knights of Class C or higher can use skills. After the big guy undergoes the power boost of the skill, which increases size, attack, and defense by 50%, he walks toward the villagers, calling them pathetic fools. However, he soon becomes confused by a huge shadow on his back, and, as soon as he turns to see what it is, he sees a huge bullman behind him. Then he starts to get worried, but without having time to defend himself, he is severely attacked. Jihoon is impressed by the bullman's strength. Meanwhile, inside the cave, the ponytail-haired guy is very impatient, questioning how long he will have to wait there, and, along with the other bandits, also wants to know why no one has returned yet, until he loses patience, stands up, and then points to the side of his big friend and orders everyone to follow him. After a while, Jihoon and the other villagers managed to capture the 60 bandits who followed the big guy, and the rabbits, with their abilities, pinned all the bandits to the ground, leaving only their heads out. Then he asked Mr. Tor about the casualties they had. He says that 23 are seriously injured, being ineffective in combat, and 42 are lightly injured but can continue fighting. Jihoon reflects on the numerical advantage of 113 against 60, and that although they almost doubled the numbers, they suffered more than half the losses. But regardless, the operation was successful. However, he knows it is not over yet, since he has in mind that the remaining enemies still outnumber them. So, at the moment, besides numerical superiority, it is time to increase their strength. Therefore, he calls for Tor and, pointing to the fallen weapons of the bandits, orders Mr. Tor to distribute them to all the villagers capable of continuing to fight. Thus, the villagers arrive and begin taking the bandits' weapons. In this way, most become equipped. Jihoon activates his ruler's eye and sees everyone's stats, noticing that the group's attack power almost doubled. Then he gets excited because this completely exceeds his expectations. Meanwhile, the bandits are still walking through the cave until the group of the guy with the ponytail finds an exit, but soon wonders why everything is so silent. Then he notices the big guy's group buried in the ground with their mouths tied. He goes crazy with rage and screams in worry as he only sees their heads until he realizes they are still alive. So they go to them and ask why they are in that state, but they don't realize that 2 rabbits are about to strike them. And so, the group of the guy with the ponytail is also attacked. Meanwhile, the group of the bandit leader is still running inside the cave. The leader begins to get nervous because apparently they seem to be completely lost, until one of the bandits tells the leader that he thinks they are right this time, because right after the passage they see, he believes it is an exit. However, some bandits do not notice where they are stepping and end up activating another hidden trap. And as soon as they try to do something, it is already too late, but nothing happens. They are confused trying to understand what just happened because they clearly stepped on one of the traps, but for some reason, it didn't trigger. Then the leader takes a spear and, suspicious of something, thrusts it into the ground where there are several pebbles, but they end up realizing it is just normal ground. The leader starts laughing and comments that apparently there were only traps at the cave's entrance and that the rest was all fake to delay them. Then, he grits his teeth furiously and makes it clear that whoever dared to do this will pay with their life. This is Traktor, the leader of the Screaming Drill Bandit Gang, a promising mid-rank knight of the kingdom who entered the mountains in search of greater fortune and now plunders monster camps and sets ambushes for the kingdom's knights in order to rob, until the bandit that the big guy had asked to inform the leader arrives shouting, telling that he found the village and that it was the middle tunnel. Traktor is very pleased to know this. Back at the village, it is already getting late and Mr. Bull tells the MC that they captured all the bandits. Jihoon comments that they did a great job. The MC looks at the cave and thinks that just by breaking a wall at the fork, they rediscovered the way back to the entrance, and that this gave them enough time to prepare a strategy. Then he knows that now, all that remains is to wait a little longer. At that moment, the guy with the ponytail releases the gag that is in his mouth. And he starts shouting, calling the MC an idiot and saying that it doesn't matter how he subdued them, but when his leader arrives, everything will be over. Then he makes it clear that the man called Screaming Drill operates on a completely different level. However, before he finishes speaking, Rhea appears, landing a powerful kick right in the middle of his face. Thus, she comments that, just as the MC suggested, she only counted the members capable of combat and that about 65 remain. Jihoon has in mind that there are approximately 60 bandits left, including their own leader, but on the other hand, he also knows that although they are at a disadvantage in stamina after 2 battles, they still have strength. Then he activates his ruler's eye and thinks it was already expected. Observing the remaining fighters, he notices that they gained rich combat experience, and with that, he gets a little more excited, thinking that they just need to get stronger, until he realizes that the sword he placed on his shoulders is heavier than he imagined. At that moment, someone is walking out of the cave and Rhea and the MC get worried. It is the group of the bandit gang leader. The guy with the ponytail, with his whole face swollen, screams asking for help from his leader, who in turn only calls everyone pathetic fools. Traktor asks the MC if everything he witnessed was his plan. Jihoon comments that the bandit leader could call it strategy. Traktor laughs and says that apparently the boy has become quite confident and also thinks that the 2 victories he had must have been sweet, but makes it clear there will not be a third. Jihoon laughs as well and emphasizes that he will pay to see the bandit leader try, but that he wants to make an offer first. Then, he points his sword at the head of the guy with the ponytail, who gets very scared. Thus, he demands that they leave and drop their weapons, unless the leader wants to see his companion die. Traktor takes a deep breath. Jihoon has in mind that this looks like something only third-rate villains from movies or comics would do, but he knows now is not the time to have principles, and that if the bandits accepted this, it would be a tremendous victory, until Traktor drops his spear on the ground, and Jihoon is surprised, wondering if they are really going to give up. However, the bandits begin to give a sinister laugh, and the MC soon realizes that the atmosphere of the bandits has changed drastically. Traktor places his hand on the ground and, while activating his skill, makes it clear that everyone there will kneel before him and scream in agony. Jihoon becomes very worried about this, since he knows that the bandit leader's skill is an ability that grants a buff in a very wide area, increasing the attributes of all allies within range, including the caster himself, by 25%. Jihoon also knows that even without seeing their stats, he can physically feel the combat power of everyone involved through the skill. Thus, he becomes very worried, as he did not expect their combat power to skyrocket. Without wasting time, Traktor shouts, ordering his whole group to eliminate everything and everyone at will. Jihoon also shouts, asking the villagers to charge for the attack, and thus, the final battle begins. The rabbit beasts quickly transform, creating a smoke curtain in the battle, and some of them manage to catch some bandits by surprise, hitting them from every possible direction. But the rabbits notice something strange in the bandits they are attacking. Then, one of them, with a sinister look and pulling a dagger from his arm as if he had not felt any pain, wants to know if the pathetic little creatures are already finished, which leaves them quite worried. Due to Traktor's ability, the bandits are much stronger and seem to not feel pain. With that, the course of the battle turns against the villagers of Warren. Meanwhile, Mr. Tower keeps attacking tirelessly the bandits that enter his range of action with the huge hammer until they start throwing ropes at the bull, asking to tie him up as quickly as possible. Tor cannot avoid it and has his arms and neck tied by ropes. The bandits start pulling and shouting, asking not to let him go at all. As soon as they apply more force, they manage to unbalance the huge bull, making him fall to his knees on the ground and quickly go after him. Tor gets worried since he is about to be eliminated and will not be able to do anything. Meanwhile, other bandits are setting fire to the wool of the sheep men, forcing them to run away. Riseldrak tries at all costs to dodge the bandits' arrow shots. Jihoon, watching the outcome of the battle, starts to get worried and thinks that even after having used weapons to increase combat power and gain experience to help the villagers level up, they are being cornered in every way. Then he turns, wanting to know where Rhea is, who fights fiercely against the bandits. However, as soon as she prepares to attack again, she ends up being completely surrounded. Rhea starts to get worried because she is reaching the limit of her physical endurance. Jihoon notices this too and tries to think of something to reverse the situation until he sees a rabbit being thrown hard against a tree. After returning to her normal form, the little rabbit asks the MC to order everyone to flee because she thinks they will not be able to defeat the bandits. Jihoon reflects that at this pace he fears they really will lose, but on the other hand, he knows that there is only one way to end this battle now. Then he gets serious and, watching Traktor, knows that the way to end all this is to defeat him, until he sees Mr. Tower being attacked without defending himself, starting to remember the conversation he had with him before, when he wanted to know if Mr. Tower could transform as well, to which he replied yes. With that, the MC made it very clear that he was to await the signal. Tower keeps looking at the MC waiting for the order, then tries to get up, but the bandits start shouting, wanting to know what he thinks he is doing. Then they go after the bull, and about to be finished, Jihoon shouts, asking Mr. Tower to use his awakening transformation. Thus, Tor activates the awakening of his ability, gaining an increase in his defense and life by more than 50% and throwing away the bandits who were trying to eliminate him. Jihoon wants to take advantage of this chance and heads into battle, shouting for Mr. Tar to accompany him. While running, the MC keeps in mind that he has only 3 minutes of Mr. Tar's transformation to defeat the bandit leader. But when he is about to approach Traktor, one of the bandits behind Mr. Tar starts throwing ropes at him to tie him again. Traktor just watches the outcome laughing. The bandits again manage to tie Tor, but this time, with the transformation, he gained a lot of strength and soon uses the rope to pull, throwing the bandits on top of the boss. Traktor calls his henchmen idiots and says they just need to let go of the rope. Tower prepares to punch the bandit leader and, as soon as he attacks, an explosion happens because of the strong impact of his strength. But he is shocked to see that Traktor stopped his powerful punch by holding his hand and asking if the bull only has size and no strength. Jihoon takes advantage of the fact that the boss is distracted with Mr. Tor and jumps on his back. But Traktor had already predicted this, smiles, quickly turns around, and throws the huge bull against the MC. Jihoon cannot believe that the boss had predicted his movements, and, without much to do, ends up being hit. But Traktor makes another move and goes all out against the bull, landing a powerful kick on him. Jihoon does not like this at all, and the bandit boss only gives a sinister smile, but soon after, already charges against the MC with everything. While Rhea fights near them, the MC is thrown hard against a rock. Rhea notices her friend being attacked, while the MC feels a lot of pain, and, as he slowly begins to lose consciousness due to the impact he took, he thinks that after checking everyone's stats, he reviewed his own and knows that he is stronger than Mr. Tor and Rhea. Traktor does not care and charges again against the MC, who tries to stand up and thinks that against humans, his only hope is to go all out with everything he has. Thus, he activates his passive ability of the physical monster that transcends human strength and charges furiously at Traktor, and the system warns that when he is attacking humans, all his attributes increase by 200%, which leaves the bandit boss very surprised with this twist, and without much to do, ends up being hit right in the face by the punch of the MC. Rhea and Mr. Tar are impressed with the blow of the MC. After landing the strike on the bandit leader, he thinks he heard his neck crack. However, Traktor plants his foot on the ground and makes it clear that he had already said one thing. With a bizarre face, he comments that, as he said before, the MC will not achieve the third victory. Jihoon, facing Traktor, wonders how the hell he will defeat him, but ends up not noticing the bandit leader coming at him and is hit with a powerful punch in his stomach. Then, he falls to his knees, and before Traktor tries to stay standing, very worried, he thinks that he cannot fall now, but the bandit leader grabs his head and smashes it hard against the ground. Jihoon says he will not give up, but Traktor applies more force on the MC's head and emphasizes that the boy simply needs to stay down. And, looking at the battlefield, he asks the boy to let all the villagers see him defeated. It doesn't take long for the villagers of Warren to notice their chief face down on the ground and become worried. Tor calls for his chief, but soon sees Rhea rushing toward the MC, asking him to move away. But as she heads toward him, someone points a crossbow in her direction, and as soon as it fires, it hits her leg. She begins to fall sideways and thinks that she was very reckless to advance like that without being aware of her surroundings. Ji-hoon is worried about his friend, and, as soon as he sees her falling to the ground, he shouts, calling for her. Then Traktor notices that the sun is almost setting, but comments that it is already too late. Then he shouts, asking everyone on the battlefield to hear him, thus informing that the war is over. With that, he orders his henchmen to burn everything there. Ji-hoon cannot believe Traktor's order. It does not take long for the bandits to start setting the entire village of Warren on fire. Straw huts, crops, and provisions. Ji-hoon watches this in disbelief, but knows that at the moment, he cannot do anything to stop it. It does not take long for the village to start burning in flames. The villagers begin to scream, worried about their homes and their village, then start running to save themselves. The bandits do not stop setting fires. From afar, some villagers comment that they think it is all over for them. While his head is forced against the ground, Ji-hoon hears Traktor saying that it is not as simple as children would like to think, because the losing side loses everything. Some bandits begin capturing villagers, and others go after Mr. Tower, until Traktor begins to lift the MC and says that he has lost everything: home, friends, family, and even his own life. Rhea, seeing the situation her friend is in, becomes very worried and starts shouting his name, until Ji-hoon stretches out his arms to grab the bandit leader's arm. This leaves him very surprised, wanting to know if the boy does not know when to give up. Almost without strength, Ji-hoon makes it clear that he still cannot lose. Then he begins to remember his mother and his cat Ruru and knows that he needs to stay alive to return to that moment. Next, he remembers the system's warning about the monster's ultimate goal being the complete annihilation of humanity. After remembering this, he clenches his teeth furiously and shouts that until he achieves his goal, he will never give up. The villagers, Tower and Rhea, hear this and are very surprised, moved by the strong conviction of the MC. On the other hand, Traktor comments that he does not care if the boy will not give up. Then, he grabs a dagger and goes to attack the MC, saying that his role has already ended there. At that moment, they do not notice that it has already become night and the moon is full and bright. Someone is looking attentively at the moonlight, and that someone rushes toward the bandit leader, and with incredible speed, he delivers an attack on Traktor without him realizing that he was being attacked. And due to this blow the bandit leader took, he ends up losing his arm. Someone is with claws full of blood, and Ji-hoon is very surprised to see who it is. Then, he begins to remember before his plan, when he found something strange, because all the other beast beings could awaken freely after spending MP, but in contrast, Rhea could not awaken even with plenty of MP. But he has in mind that thinking better, at that time, even on the verge of death, she did not use such an ability. Then he wonders if there was a restriction on the awakening of the fox people. Rhea, under the moonlight, has her true power awakened, and all her attributes increase by 100%. This is her awakening. She soon asks Ji-hoon for his next order. He takes a deep breath, calls her, and while watching Traktor screaming in pain for having his arm torn off, Ji-hoon asks his friend to finish off every last bandit. She replies that it's fine, and immediately moves at an incredible speed. As soon as she approaches the bandit leader, he shouts, wanting to know how a mere creature dares to touch his arm. Without showing any mercy, Rhea decapitates Traktor's head. The guy with the ponytail hair cannot believe that his boss was defeated so easily. As Traktor's head falls to the ground, Rhea tells him to shut up, because she no longer has the slightest desire to hear him spew venom. The bandits, as soon as they realize their leader has been defeated, are in disbelief since they never imagined they would see him defeated. Then, because Traktor was eliminated, the effects of his skill begin to be cancelled on the other bandits, and they start to feel all the pain from their battle wounds. The night begins to grow darker, and the MC is surprised by something in front of him. A system warning informs that when night falls, monsters become stronger and all of their attributes increase by 20%. It doesn't take long for Lord Tor and the other villagers to begin experiencing the night effect. Thus, the huge bull lets out a loud roar, and one of the villagers shouts for everyone to counterattack the bandits immediately. They get excited, shouting that they will fight and destroy the humans. The bandits are frightened and comment among themselves that it is already night. They know that monsters receive buffs, and that they will not be able to win, especially with their leader defeated. Jihoon takes a deep breath, and as soon as a raindrop falls on his nose, he realizes it has started to rain in the Warren village. Then he sees the bandits retreating and the villagers chasing after them to capture them. Thus, he thinks he had carelessly imagined it was just a beginner mission, and that because of this, he ended up becoming confident since the strategy was going well. Meanwhile, the villagers shout celebrating the victory and the blessed rain. Jihoon keeps reflecting that his first battle in this world ended like this. He knows that more than half of the village burned, and many beastmen died or were injured. Thus, he lowers his head, feeling guilty, and comments that if he had done at least a little better, it wouldn't have come to this. Until Rhea approaches saying that he doesn't need to carry the burden alone. Then she emphasizes that everyone's abilities are different and reminds the MC of when he was fighting against Traktor, that even when he was about to be eliminated, he didn't want to give up. Thus, she makes it clear that he did the best within his own capabilities. Jihoon is very surprised by Rhea's words, until she smiles and makes it clear that he should take good care of the Warren village from now on, saying this while calling him the village chief. Jihoon is left speechless hearing this, but soon notices something strange in her status. Rhea starts to get a little embarrassed, but quickly turns and runs off at full speed while shouting that she is going to help with the post-war cleanup. As she joins the other villagers, wanting to know if they are okay, and saying that she will help with the cleanup too, the MC thinks that he is very grateful for her, because he believes all of this was thanks to Rhea. However, he also knows that it is not over yet, and that this is just the beginning since he is seeing a notice from his system informing that the main mission of building the monster faction has been completed, and that currently the monster population is 82 people. Because of this, he will receive the random skill reward. Jihoon thinks that from now on, he swears not to repeat the same mistakes, and as soon as he accepts the random reward, the system informs him that he has learned the weapon refinement skill. With that, several days pass and everyone is committed to rebuilding the Warren village. Rhea goes to the MC, calls him, and then asks him to stop for a moment because he needs to eat. Jihoon is excited to know that he will take a break to eat something, but is soon shocked to see that once again, he will only have to eat carrots. Rhea, while eating her carrot, says that the carrot field burned, but luckily the food storage was safe. Still very disbelieving, Jihoon comments that since he arrived there, he has only eaten carrots. Then, he wants to know if both Riseldrak and Rhea are originally carnivores. Rhea replies that they are not and asks why they would be. Jihoon takes a deep breath and thinks that he is living a forced vegetarianism, but knows that food is food in the end, until he turns around upon hearing someone asking if another person's leg is okay. Then he sees the villagers tirelessly continuing the reconstruction of the village and worrying about each other. Thus, he thinks that the vitality and recovery power of the beastmen are excellent, and that thanks to this, the village was rebuilt at an accelerated pace, with 2 weeks already having passed since the fierce battle they had against the bandits. He also knows that during this period they held funerals for the victims, and, with the exception of the bandits who ended up dying or escaping, they brought the 55 captured people to trial. Jihoon thinks that at the time all the villagers wanted to take revenge on those who were sacrificed immediately, but he knew that taking the lives of unarmed people was never easy, and that after long discussions, they ended up releasing the bandits. But obviously they did not just let them go, because they had heard that there were several dangerous monsters in the sea, and that if the bandits were lucky enough to avoid them and reach the end of the current, they would reach the kingdom, and for that reason, they would hope that they received the proper punishment. After remembering this, while eating his carrot, Jihoon thinks that there is one thing he discovered late, being the reason why the bandits were looking for the fox's den, the item their leader was searching for, and which he discovered by chance when he returned to Rhea's house. Then he remembers that at the time, as soon as he entered her house, he commented that luckily the place there was intact, and as soon as he looked up, he noticed something strange and quickly used his Overlord eye. He realized that there were several enhancement stones there that could be created and of various ranks. Then, he was even more surprised to notice one in particular, as it was a rank B enhancement stone. Rhea, a little confused, wanted to know what enhancement stones would be. Still not believing, Jihoon wanted to know why on earth such precious things would be in her house, until a huge sack fell from the roof of the house, and Jihoon could not believe that inside it there was an entire package of enhancement stones. But as soon as he looked up again, he was even more shocked, since he was seeing more huge sacks hanging from the ceiling of the house, and shouted wanting to know if it could all be enhancement stones as well.